Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our February edition of the APPA Agora. This is a free public event, and we welcome APPA members and members of the public and anyone else who may not fit into either of those categories. It's a great pleasure today to welcome Ida Jongsma, our featured guest. Ida, I'm going to introduce you first, and then I'm going to spotlight us, and we'll get going with our conversation. And we will soon enough invite everybody in who wants to have a word with you, exchange reminiscences, ideas, memories, and all of those things. So without further ado, I know some of you are well acquainted with Ida, but for those of you who are not, she was in 1983 the co-founder of the Dutch philosophical counseling movement. She did her MA in philosophy at the University of Amsterdam, and then in 89 actually co-founded the Dutch Association for Philosophical Practice with her colleagues, whom we also know and love. In 1988, she opened the Hotel de Filosoof, the Philosopher's Hotel in Amsterdam, a venue at which philosophical group activities were held for nearly 20 years. It was the epicenter of a thriving and burgeoning movement of philosophical practice in the Netherlands. And we've stayed there. Havana, I know that you and I have a long history with that place. We've always enjoyed it, and we'll talk more about it with Ida. Among the courses she taught were beginning courses for philosophical counselors, training workshops, lectures in the weekly Philo Cafe that they held. And of course, the hotel had a bar, so that was very convenient. Ida worked with students, healthcare groups, and profit and nonprofit organizations. She taught postdoc courses in business ethics, the 7-step program at Nijenrode University, and she was a trainer for banks, tax organizations, a police academy, and all kinds of ministries, other ministries in the Dutch government. After 2007, she worked as a volunteer for PUM, which is a nonprofit organization of the Ministry of Finance. They send professionals to developing countries to advise and set up small businesses. And Ida there has worked, for instance, in Bhutan, Mongolia, Bangladesh, Burkino Faso, and many other countries. So without further ado, Ida, I'm going to spotlight you. Welcome to our Agora, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm glad to be here. It's a long time ago I saw you all.
Yes. Do you remember our very first meeting it's going to be 30 years this summer when you and Dries and Ad, I think.
Ad and Ida.
And Ida showed up at UBC for the first conference. I'll never forget when the four of you walked into my office. It was just amazing. I was floored by your presence.
It was so funny. When was it exactly we were in Vancouver?
It was July of 1994. That's going to be 30 years this summer.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
First philosophical question for you. Where did the time go?
Yes, that's absolutely true. It's getting through your fingers every day, more and more. I will be 76, you don't believe it. So
that's incredible, Ida. You don't look a day older than when I first met you.
Yeah, right. Go on. Well, I got more.
Your lighting, we've all learned about lighting and makeup for Zoom and everything, but you look fantastic. You sound great. And this is being recorded, so you've just revealed your age. I hope you don't mind.
So I have to take care of what I say.
Well, we can edit it lightly, but not too much.
No, you don't have to. I'm better nowadays.
You never worried too much about what you said. We've always found, I think, don't you agree there's this sort of Dutch American thing where we're very pragmatic, the Dutch are very practical.
Yeah.
And you speak your minds pretty openly, yeah?
Yeah, we are very outspoken, and that goes against our reputation sometimes,
Well, people misunderstand. They sometimes think you're rude because you speak plainly, but I always enjoyed that. Not necessarily in restaurants in Amsterdam, but usually.
Yes, right.
So are you back home now?
I'm back home, yes. I was in America with my sister in Florida because I'm totally retired. I always tell people I'm retarded now because it sounds a lot more retarding, I think, than retiring at the moment.
Well, I suspect that you're very active anyway, and I want to take you back first before the first part. I would like to just ask you what years were you at the University of Amsterdam doing your master's, and who were you studying? What was your research about
I
in those
started
days?
in 77, I think, 76, and then I finished my at 82. I think I finished my studies, the master, because because in those times everybody knew that you never got a job with philosophy at all. So therefore, I got and I think Jos Kessel still, of course. And Jos was a teacher and docent and teacher at the Montessori system in the high school. And he got a tennis arm and he could not do the work for a few months. So he asked me to do his job there. So, of course, I took it. So I had to rush to get my examination and my papers ready because I wanted to study a year more. But then I thought you never can get a job. So I went after that, of course. And that was in 83. I started in the Montessori and I finished in ethics and really continental philosophy, like Heidegger and Nietzsche, but also Sartre and all the, metaphysics and phenomenology and a lot of ethics. So really the whole kind of thing. And we also were teaching that in the Montessori system. So, what is beauty and what is good and what is this. And that really was a serious program. It was an experiment in Holland. So we only could do that for about, they allowed us for 5 years. And then it got a regular kind of examination in the schools. So I did that for 5 years. And I was, I did a lot of things before that, but I was a kind of an older student when I started.
Late bloomer. We call them late bloomers.
Yeah, right.
And we're still blooming, but let me take you back even a little bit further because you may not know this, but you obviously know that Amsterdam was one of the epicenters of the hippie movement and the counterculture in the late 60s and early 70s. So that's getting close to your time. The university must have been completely captivated by that scene in those days.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. I mean, it was absolutely even it was done to be the critical theory and Marx, and even pro-Russland was normal, in those times.
In those times, yes. And
now, don't believe it. So again, we were really terrible when everything fell apart there. And then we had, of course, the university. We had a lot more rights as students, so we really could have a lot of influence as students. So. Yes. Yeah, when we were students and we wanted to do a certain class, because with Dries and Ad and a few people I've studied with, and we said, we don't like the curriculum so good. So we went to the professors and we said, we want to do the ethics of Freud. So then they put a lecture for us together. So we really had a lot of influence in those times of the curriculum. Absolutely.
I remember, Ida, we had students on hiring committees back in the day. We were able to have, to help decide who we were.
Yes.
It was amazing. Not anymore. But then, did you know, I don't think I ever told you, but back in 1973, we could have bumped into each other because at the tail end of a summer of travels in Europe, I was camping out at Vondel's Park. You remember the big hippie colony?
Of course, yeah.
You were probably there. We probably met.
Right.
I camped out there for a few days and didn't want to go home because it was so wonderful. It was just everyone was hanging out in Vondel Park, and
everybody went from Morocco to Amsterdam and Spain, and they all went through it was really a kind of hippie time. Everybody was traveling and hitchhiking. I was always hitchhiking. Never a train ticket. We didn't have money, to.
Sure, but we did that. I drove from Paris to Morocco and spent time, then back all the way up to Amsterdam in a Duchevo, and then camped out on the Vondel's Park. Yeah. So, what about the hotel? When did you decide to get into the hotel business, and what was it called before you acquired it?
Oh, I thought it, the thing was that I was before I started philosophy, I was an air hostess with KLM. And so I knew a lot about hotels. I was staying there for 5 years and I really liked hotels. But when I studied, I didn't have any money. So I worked in a small hotel from friends of mine. They had a hotel also on the Vondelpark. So I worked there to earn my money for studying. So I knew a little bit about it, but I never thought I wanted to go to an hotel. But that was the problem when I was in the education, in the Montessori. I wanted to be. Then they said, "Oh, you have to. We don't have women in the higher up in the educational." So I wanted to be a director of a big school, but that was really a long way. So I did a lot of postdoc things there, but I thought this is endless to get here in charge. So then my sister came back from America, and she also had some acquaintances. She knew the hotels. So really by accident, more or less, I was really wanting to do something for myself. I had a feeling I'm done with bosses. I don't want to be in the program what other people want me to do. So I really wanted to be my own boss. And then we found by more or less, by luck or accident, I don't know how you want to call it, we found there the hotel on the Anne Vondel Street. And it was a very rundown hotel. It was a youth hotel. So it really was a kind of totally, a flea bag. But therefore it was cheap and we didn't have money. So we really fixed it up totally after, we got 2 buildings, 3 buildings, 4 buildings. So we really worked hard on that. But I also did Montessori for part-time, of course. So that really was kind of busy. But the hotel the Anne Vondel Street was the street. So it was called Hotel Anvo. But I said, I only want a hotel if we make it Hotel de Philosoof, because I don't want to get rid of my philosophy. And because if you go into hotel business and you call it, something else. So I said, I only do it if I can integrate philosophy in it. And so we did. So basically we had from the first 3 months we opened, we had already the Philo Cafe. I think that was about at least 88, 89. And then, every room had a kind of philosophical theme. So we really worked hard on that. That was.
I remember you had the Descartes room, you had the Nietzsche room. Wasn't the Nietzsche room totally black?
No, the Sartre was black.
Oh, that was a black room.
Yeah.
Okay, one of them. I remember you put me in there one time.
Nietzsche was a kind of red room, a small red room. So the thing is, the old philosophers, we had sayings on the wall and books in there, but we needed artists to make it a little more in the style, of course, of colors. But that was easy, you can do a lot with bacon. You have all kind of bacon, so you can do it all together in one room. That was nice. But then, we did it for 18 years. And then because I did it with my sister, so she was 3 months on, I was 3 months on. So then I had time to still do my philosophy and my trainings and everything there. Yes. And therefore I came to New York a few times, And
we'll get there. We're not quite there yet. But before you came to New York, you had already learned all kinds of things. And you'd been in Germany. You were doing Socratic dialogues and the dilemma training, which I guess you got from Henk van Looy, because he introduced it to the European Business Ethics Network. It was a huge success. And you were very well trained, but you were also doing counseling. You were practicing across.
Yeah, the counseling was the beginning, because the counseling was when we started in university in 83, I think, of 82, even maybe before. But then we started with Achenbach, who opened his philosophical practice, and we heard about it. So we went to Germany and we asked him, how do you do it? And then Ad said, we can do it also. And Drie said, we can do it also. So we went with a group of 15 philosophers still in studying in Amsterdam. We practiced a lot. It was really totally nonsense what we did, because we really started from nothing. We had tapes and we talked, and then we had to prove to each other, then, do I use Sartre here, or do I use the Stoics here? So we really wanted to do the philosophy into the practice. So that was really a long run, and everybody disagreed, of course, because one said you never should do this, and the other one never should use this, and so that really was a kind of beginning. But it was fun. It really was nice also to do that in the beginning.
And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun learning from you too. One of the things that amazed us in the States and Canada was the Dutch facility with language, because you were speaking German in Germany. You know, you were more or less fine. You fluent in English. You were such great linguists and such great travelers that you were able to share your teaching with us and a lot of other people. And we were very grateful for that as well.
Yeah. But the Dutch were like that because, you know, we are always, the Holland were really also in the 18th century, they were the business people. So when the academics, professors, they didn't believe in us, and they said, no, you should go to theory only and academic philosophy. And we said, you know, we never can work in that, so we have to change it. So you have to work with philosophy in other fields. So, and that was really the beginning. And it was first when Jos went a lot with the Socratic method. We did a lot with group sessions. And we did the counseling, and then the children philosophy came. So really a lot of people went to do their own thing in their own business, more or less. And you had to you had to work next to it too. You know, a lot of them, even I don't know, Ida was also a psychologist, and he worked in university. But the most people did normally work, and even in the post office, and they did the practice next to it, because you could not live from the practice. You know, not in those times at all.
That's good for our American colleagues to know, because it's hard enough just to find work as a philosopher in the academy. And now people are starting with the profession that we have helped really to establish is taking off, and it is possible now. And we have lots of young people who've gone through, have done a degree in philosophy, have done a program, have been certified or trained, and they're able to open up a practice and succeed. It's great to see that. So I think that you played a huge role in the transformation of practice from something that was eccentric and fringe to something that's much more mainstream now.
Yeah, right.
And Eta's still around. I'm still emailing with him. He's in Groningen, isn't he?
He's in Groningen still, yeah. But we are all, of course, because here you go out of you retire at 66 now. So and everybody retires. You can work next to it, but I mean, and I think that's also fair, because the young people, so I don't do a lot of groups anymore at all, because there are so many young people who need the jobs, so why should I take a group with the tax people or with the police? And I mean, they have to get the jobs, and I don't need it anymore. So I help them out. I do things with group sessions, but I don't work for it anymore. I put other people in. And because, I'm 76, it's enough. I saw enough people in my life, I think, as a teacher. So that was it. But I still like the crowds. But in Holland, we have 70 million people in Holland. And we have the topics of philosophy is totally hot everywhere. So you don't believe how many people now in the newspapers with philosophy in Holland. It really is too much, and you can't control it anymore, because we don't know if they all are studying philosophy or they had to study. So that's what we really still try to do. We really want philosophers who work in it, who did at least an academic study. But, that's not controllable anymore. So you have to take care, because it's a lot of then you had Tom Morrison last time. And we have, a girl who has now Plato on sneakers, and we have Plato on this. And so it goes on forever now. And we don't know them anymore. There are so many. We have the month of the philosophy in April, a whole month. And we have now a girlfriend of mine, she is a philosopher. We have now for 2 years, we have the thinker of the fatherland, we call it. So they are really in the picture, and they get this title. And, we have them already for, I don't know how, I think 2011 it started. So we have a lot of, and everywhere is a Philo Cafe. So that's really in the villages. So, it really is unbelievable what a kind of, it went, and it's really our doing. The only thing is, it gets what we think also too. It's also too popularizing. You
think it's too commercial? Is that your criticism now, that we're too?
Yeah, it's getting the how do you call it, the deep philosophy thinking goes away from it. It's like you don't need a lot of philosophy background to get a group together with the businesses. So a lot of people, I don't know what they do basically, and that's a pity. We still have the foundation, of course, and there we keep an eye on it. But everybody can, of course, do what they want. That's not the thing. But I'm afraid that it goes too wide. Like we have, of course, also a big institute now of Alain de Botton, the School of Life in Amsterdam, and there are also, and he does a good job. But I mean, it's really popular. So the people who really teach there, they don't really need a philosophy degree. So you can have question marks there, I think.
Well, we're philosophers. We question everything. But you did us a huge service by coming to the first conference, of course, which was a watershed for the movement. But then you hosted the second one. You remember, in Leusden?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
2 years later, 1996, and that was also a huge success.
Right.
And then we had the New York event in 96.
Yes.
That was the thing that took us into orbit. You remember? Because
I know.
And they were so infatuated with you and Dries. You remember they called Dries the Mick Jagger of the movement? She fell in love with the whole idea and gave us really good press. I think that's the last time we've had good press in New York was 1997, but it was so good that it never ended our popularity. It went across the world. It resulted in so much activity. But they loved you because you said they loved how you pronounced theory. You said theorie, and the New York intellectuals just totally fell in love with it. And that's why, I don't know if you were who you were, in Hollywood, but I remember, or as a rock star, I don't know who your idol was, but you would have been that idol of the movement. And Dries specifically they called him the Mick Jagger of the movement. But it was really good for us, it did a lot. That conference really put us on the map.
Yeah. Because you do a lot now in America, no?
Oh yes, but we don't have your worry that philosophy's too popular. We're getting humanities programs that are being defunded now because of STEM, science, technology, engineering, medicine, which is vital, but it's displacing humanities in the U.S. And that's not a good thing.
No.
So philosophy is a little bit under siege. Of course, there are still philosophy departments, but the practice aspect has really taken off in the last 10 or 15 years, I'd have to say. And more people from psychology and psychiatry and law and social work and co-professionals are also interested now in acquiring philosophical tools.
Yeah.
So that gives us more outreach to people who are very well educated, but who also want philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you trained so many people in government ministries. Could you talk a bit about your experience as a trainer with police, with tax people, with all kinds of civil servants?
We did most of the time, but not all the time. It was a very luxurious. With Henk van Luik was very luxurious because they put us in the tax people for 2 full days with a group of about 20 people. So you had 4 sessions of 3 hours each. So you really could do quite a lot. And the thinking, basically, what Henk van Luik also did, and that was in the postdoctor for the university where Henk came from, Nijenrode, because the thing is, if you can do all kinds of things with ethics, but Henk van Luik always had to say, we have to teach people to get the feeling of morality inside of you, not because people tell you A, B, and C. You have to understand that it comes from inside how you think about morality. So we did a lot there with the tax people, the police people. But the negative thing is, of course, that the people were sent there. They could not. So that is really difficult groups all the time, because a lot of them, they thought, oh, nonsense, and I know what is good. And I know what is good, but other people don't know what is good. So that's what everybody thinks. So we really had the kind of tough jobs there, but it was really good to do, and we had long time. So you get them out of class, and they had to practice, talk to each other. And on the end of 2 days, I said, okay, write something down what you can put in a newspaper now on the front page, what you have learned here. And because they always came like, the funny thing is they always came like, can I do that? No, but I don't do it, but I should do it. And I said, yeah, but you have to write it down. Why should you do it and don't do it? So we really tried to trigger them to make an announcement how they really felt about it and what they should do. So it was a kind of tough job. And also, of course, you had people who didn't want to be there, especially with the police people. I had once a group with the police. You don't believe it. There were about 30 people there, and about 5 of them didn't say a word. The whole course, nothing. So I went to the boss who of them, and I said, "What is going on there?" He said, "They are under. They did something very wrong. They were, I don't know, they stole something. So they were they couldn't say anything because they were under the police." So you had and also with the social people, I asked them always to give on paper without a name, to give a case study from themselves, from the workplace. And those cases were really very interesting for us, but also for, in general. Because the funny thing is, people who from the government who had to from the tax people, they had to put people who had black, I don't know how the black label, when you have workers who you don't pay on you have to, we call it black laborers, because you don't pay anything for them. They come through the back door. How do you call them? You have a lot
under the table
right under the table. Yeah. So the funny thing is, they had to go after those people, but then I had a big chief of the tax, and then the people in his village said, yes, he can talk because he has a new roof on his house, a new roof, and that is not paid for. That's under the table paid. So I mean, there were always those fights, of course, what was right, what was wrong, and what you should do. So it was really funny. But, and the worst I always thought were the judges. I had groups of judges. You can't learn anything.
You were trying to work with judges?
Yeah.
A whole room full of judges?
Yeah, the whole room full of judges, really. Yeah, you can't believe it.
I would find that hard to believe. Well, did they listen at all to you, or were they all totally?
Hardly. They only listen if you get them to open up for their home kind of situation. So I could not go to their work, of course, but if I said, what is the problem? And you have grown-ups, children, and what if your child is getting into problems? And what do you do then? And they really went after that then. They were normal people, but about their work, they were never normal people.
So let me ask you a couple of more questions, and we're going to open the mic. We have wonderful participants. I'm going to invite some of our friends to jump in, and then anyone in the audience who wants to interact will be free to access the mic. But first of all, Holland was one of the first countries, if not the first country, to legalize euthanasia, and that's quite a while ago. Canada's doing it now, and it's very controversial because of the way they're doing it. But how is the experience these days? Has it settled down, or is there still a lot of discussion? I know some doctors who were very unhappy about basically putting people to death. They wanted a new branch.
Basically, I think it's a very stable and a very good, safe and honest kind of procedure, because you need 2 doctors. You have to be terminal. So, I mean, I got my mother euthanasia, and it was about 3 months. She was terminal with lung cancer, and she was old. But the doctor has to go after it, and then you get a scan doctor, and then you have to ask in the government, to ask for if they can do it, if 2 doctors sign, and then you get the medicines. So that is really, basically, I know a lot of people who agree with that. And nowadays, and that's, of course, the governments, we have the same problem now like you in America, but our government is totally going now to the right side. And everybody is totally shocked in Holland. We are shocked because we see Amsterdam as a totally socialistic city. everybody's to the left side, and it turned around in 1 year. So we really totally, really, in awe about this. But now there is a few politics, very religious. We have 20 politician groups or more. So there are now a few groups who are against euthanasia now, and against abortion and this kind of thing. But it's smaller groups, and it really does not do a lot. The only problem is we have now also, and it's an association for you can decide your own death whenever, and that's a new association, and they have a lot of problems now because they think they are too free, and they can deliver medicines, and they are not allowed to do it. So that's a kind of controversial at the moment. That goes a step further than the euthanasia, what is regulated.
Yes. I never thought that Amsterdam could be too free, but maybe that's possible. It's quite. I mean, Amsterdam has always been the freest place in the world that I've ever been, and it's interesting to see if that could be taken too far as well. Let me ask you this: could you share some of your experiences in Africa, in Mongolia? You've been traveling some very interesting places. What kind of work really have you been doing there, and how
the
is
thing
it?
was like it's a kind of big. It's a volunteer work from the government, and they want to help economically poor countries. And they have a lot of people who can go there. They do it with bakeries, they do it with hotels, they do it teaching. They have a lot of engineers. So all kind of all over the world. And I worked in hotels with education for guest, how do we call it? Like what I did with this kind of Socratic dialogues with the people of the hotel. And I knew a lot of the hotel, so I could help them also a little bit better with the marketing and everything. But basically, I helped them out. And the funny thing, like in Ouagadougou, in Burkina Faso, they had no idea. They didn't even have an agenda there to see what the guests were coming, And I said, yes, no, we don't mind, and they will come, or they don't come. So that was a kind of totally different kind of thing. But in Sylhet, in Bangladesh, the last trip was really very nice. I had very good hotels, and the people were willing. I got from one of the guys a message that he had a new job, and they want me to help them, and they asked me questions, and with English, they wanted to speak English with me, of course. So that really was a kind of fun thing, and I did quite a lot there. And in Europe, it's not so interesting because then they know what they're doing. But I was in Mongolia, I was in Bhutan, that was really fun too, because those countries are kind of different. And Bhutan, for instance, I mean, I don't know how many people know it, but they are all vegetarian, and they have these big rivers full of fish, and they are not allowed to get fish out of it. So I have all kinds of questions about that, how does it go if people are so poor? And then what they do, that's so funny, because then they are not allowed, they are vegetarian, but they buy in India, they buy the chicken, and it comes from India. So then they don't fish it themselves, and they don't kill it themselves, so they eat it when it is imported.
Well,
so
but they're a Buddhist country. They have one of the highest happiness indices in the world. They're supposed to be very happy. Was that your experience? Were they happy?
No, it's not my experience. I think it's a province of India. They are really happy. And I also went through the custom, and I wanted to do that happiness thing. But the problem is they go to you, everybody who comes there, you get a chief from the government, and he comes in with all these papers, and you know exactly what everybody has to say. So it's not like they really want to do that because, it's their image. And the truth is that they are proud of it. So they are very nice people, and they are really sweet as they can be. But, basically they all want to go to Europe. They all want to drink Coca-Cola, and they all want. So I was kind of disappointed about this whole image of Bhutan, but it's a very small country. They are nothing without India or without China. They have very little people there, and they have nothing. They all love their king, but there is one king, and there is one. I think we had people there. There is one on the whole country. There is one helicopter. So if there is a guest from another country, you can't use the helicopter for other people anymore. So it's really kind of totally, yeah. And they are okay. They have good clothing on and they can eat, and so it's not a problem. But happiness has something to do with education too, I think.
That's an interesting thought. Vana has been to Bhutan. She's the only other person who's been there, and she also has some things to say about it. But basically, she told me you were also riding camels in North Africa at some point. Is that true?
Yes, I have. I was invited with a friend who is a girlfriend. She has been 10, 20 years on a camel alone in the White Desert in Egypt. And every year she went for half a year along with her 2 camels, and then she had people who went with her. She had a kind of trip there, and with 10 people. And then she said, "I don't know what to do with those people. If we go laying down in the evening, and the camels they have to rest, and then we have the tent." So she asked me to do a philosophy course there on 10 days. So I went with 10 people. They were really very nice people, and we went in the daytime. We went with the camels through the desert, beautiful desert, I must say, the white desert behind Cairo. It was about 8 hours under Cairo, I think, with a car. But the funny thing was, after 2 days, I couldn't walk anymore because it's tough walking. So, and I was elder, so I was on the camel for the other days. That was fantastic. So you really go, it's very nice feeling sitting on a camel all day. And then in the 4 o'clock before dinner and after dinner, we did questions and we did all kind of things there. The experience you had on the daytime, and we tried to go alone in the desert. And they put me somewhere for 24 hours, nothing. So it was very exciting. And Arita, she is still a friend of mine, and she still goes. She went to she is kind of, I don't know how do you say that in English? But she goes to all kind of countries where she is totally on a horse for weeks. So I did that. Yes, that was fun.
What, any new travel plans for you?
No, not really at the moment, because I'm not really in type for vacation. So if I go somewhere, I want to do something there. And that's and everybody here goes on city trips and everybody flies all around the world. But, I saw everything. I did so much. So I don't know what to do. I really should. And I wanted to do the volunteer jobs further on, but you can't after 72. You can't do it anymore because they are right, because they think you stop working at 67. And then 72, you are too far away from your communication with all those people. You have to. It's not true, of course, but you get older, you get sick, you are in dangerous countries, of course.
So did you also acquire a theater or something?
Yeah, I have a very small theater.
Yeah. You're getting into the theater business now.
No, I help him out because I went there for it. In the hotel we have the Red Room.
Yes.
And now this theater is in the middle of Amsterdam. It's 5 minutes from my house, and it has exactly the same room like I had in the hotel. So I went there and I said to Karel, he's a friend too, and I said, "Listen, I need to do something here because I missed the hotel and now I can." So he said, "You come here." So I did quite a few things in the beginning. Philosophers, and I had them for teaching. And there's a lot of music going on almost every evening, but I only do about once a week. I do an evening with the bar and I help out, and I have a kind of crowdfunding for him because we are not subsidized, and only 35 people can go in. So you can't live from that.
No, but it sounds fantastic. So
yeah, it really is fun. It's called the torpedo. You laugh your head. The torpedo. It's Torpedo Theater. If you look Amsterdam Torpedo Theater, you will exactly see how it looks like. I'm going to.
Yeah, it's a strange name. It's an odd name for it. There aren't so many torpedoes
it is
in
not
the canals. I mean, you have boats, but no torpedoes. No. So thank goodness.
Yeah.
Ida, I want to open the floor, but first let me invite Vana, because she's and Vana, would you like to unmute and say hi to our dear friend, your dear friend and mine?
Hey, there she is. Hi.
Please unmute.
Yes, I'm trying. Okay, there you go. Hello, Ida.
Hello.
So, it's wonderful to see you and wonderful to think about the start of philosophical practice in Amsterdam. And you taught us all so much. You were I remember when you were in the first international conference, and I was in one of your groups, and you were telling us how to do philosophical practice. And that was, so you were one of my first teachers.
Oh my God, I think you were first. Probably you were my first, I think.
No. So I'd like to know, when you were in some of these countries, were you doing any philosophical work with the Bhutanese or with the some of the other countries?
Yeah, but not in the content, because not in the content, in the methods I did, like we did all of the group sessions and we did ethics, but I could not do we did not, because I don't question their ideologies, for instance.
Okay.
I was not there to do that, because we came to help them out and in their work ethics and how they should work together. It was more like what you have in the group sessions with the conversations and the problems on the work floor. They are all over the world, more or less the same. It's the boss is totally wrong, or they have colleagues who are not okay, and so wherever you are in the world, you get the same kind of group dynamics. I think what you can question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure you're going to be doing some more interesting work. And I was wondering, with your theater, do you ever do anything with the connections between philosophy and drama? Because I know our friend in Denmark is doing that. And I wondered whether you were thinking...
We do that. We have now, but not all the time because we're so small, but we have now two philosophers who have one is a stand-up comedian who is very good, I think. And there is one girl who does also theater work as a philosopher, and it's in the content too. Mm-hmm. And but what in our hotel I had I don't know, in intercultural philosophy of Renate Schepen is also a girl I work with, and she does with a filmmaker. She is they have an African woman, Ulawa, that is, I don't know if you must have heard of her maybe. And she is died now, and the filmmaker is a friend of her, and they together did in my theater, they did an evening with film and with philosophy. So we do things, and what we do a lot is also with books. We discuss books, philosophy books, or write them, and they are then with a philosopher on the table. But there is everything, there is a lot of music going around. We have stand-ups. There's also old-fashioned kind of theater, what the Amsterdam kind of funny things. So it's, Karel does it, and I help him out a little bit with money and with the theater, the philosophy things in the theater. But it's fun to do because it keeps you out of the house and it's walking distance. So,
thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
We'll call again. Yeah.
Well, Ida, next time I'm in Amsterdam, I'm definitely going to let you know, and
of course,
and maybe we can do something in your theater. That would be a lot of fun.
Right.
So I want to open the floor now. We have some great people in the audience, and maybe some of them would like to get to know you or jump in and
course
a bit. So any electronic hands, I will acknowledge, or if you want to, I see Regina's hand. Regina, welcome. Let me unmute you, and you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Yes, I was interested in the judges, and you mentioned that you talked to them, and I was interested in what were some of the questions that you asked them that they answered, and what were some of the questions that you asked them and they were reluctant to answer?
The first thing is that with the sessions we do with them, that is the 7-step. And with the 7th step, we need case studies from the people who are around the table. And they normally, if you have different people like judges and they have their assistants, or they have the secretary with them. They are very clever to say, no, my secretary has a good case study. But these were only judges, of course, and they didn't want to do case studies because they said, we can't talk about our jobs. And that it's kind of crazy because they always judges. They did the same work in Holland. But then I said, okay, then take case studies from your private life, if you don't want to talk about your business. And then they come with basic good things, and then you can talk about it. So but they know it all. They know everything, and they don't waver, because what we do, we want with ethical questions and moral questions, we want that they doubt a little bit, and they are self-reflective about what they're thinking. But that is very hard for a lot of people, and CEOs and the bosses. They really have, in general, they have the feeling we know it all and we know exactly how it is. And I'm right and they are wrong. So that's what you notice a lot. Probably the same in America, even maybe worse.
And how did they do with that? In doing their personal cases, was that helpful to get through to that?
Yes.
Break through to that level of reflection? Yeah.
And you have to really point to it, to go through it, because they talk about their kids and then they say, oh, but, I have, puber kids. And so I said, what is the worst thing what they ever did and what you could do? And then they come with stories. And then they have problems, of course, also with the kids. And what do you do as a judge if your kid stole something somewhere? So that really is a thing. So they have to, and then they want to talk about it, because then, but it's what we always do with a group like that. We always say, listen, everything, and you never know what happens, but everything we talk about is today or 2 days is inside the room, it stays. But of course, in those times, and with all the telephones, and you can put everything under the table, of course. So I think people are more careful at the moment. More than good. Thank you for your question.
More than careful. Some people are afraid to speak now sometimes because they don't know if they're going to end up on YouTube and get canceled. Regina, you probably have. Do you know Regina? She works with Pierre Grimes on the West Coast, and is the
okay.
Pierre's book on philosophical midwifery. So she's
right. I know. Yeah, right.
Yes. So
you're still working.
Oh yes.
What do you do? With whom?
I do philosophical midwifery with different people from Australia, India.
Oh, you do it online?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, that's funny. I never could do it online because I don't know what happens, but
no, I like talking it online. I do it at the college, but not, but I'm no longer there.
No. Okay, good.
Thank you, Regina.
Thank you.
Great
Nice
to
meeting you.
See you tomorrow. Be well, and give my regards to the Noetic Society, okay? Thanks
Thank you.
for joining. Take care. Marta's hand is up. Marta, I would invite you to unmute, please, and welcome. And here you go. You're on the spotlight. Go ahead.
Hi. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Marta.
I'm very new to the practice. I just got certified a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Oh.
With Lou. So this is just such a pleasure to hear about you and everything that you've done. And I was also interested in the judges because I work with adolescents through my job and also with their parents as a result. And so I wanted to ask you, I guess it's a nice follow-up. What do you feel for a person like me who's starting out? Like, what are some effective questions or effective approaches? I know all parents are different, but I know they all share certain fears and certain troubles with their kids. I don't think any of our students exactly steal stuff, though who knows? But they also have a lot of anxiety, worry. They're very scared about colleges, the future, the planet, and so on. And if I want to help the parents guide their young people, do you have any suggestions or things that you found in the past that were really effective or a lot of people responded to?
Yeah, there is one thing what I have the feeling what is totally different for philosophers than for people who are normally, in the psychology things or in other jobs. I think you first is that you should listen and you should not judge anything. And I think that's the hardest for all of us, because somewhere in your back, in the back of your head, there is something what you think about certain things, and that comes out. So I think not judging is very important, listening. And I think you have to see what is really helping those people, because I look always in the philosophy department, you have very nice things with Stoa, you have very good things with Nietzsche. So is it a moral issue? What is the issue here? Is it an ideology issue? Is it about the nature of the fears of the world? That's all over it now. Also here, we have that a lot of problems now about the nature and the climate change and everything. So it's basically going into those people, how they think, and then see where you find an opening from what philosophy item you can put in. And that's very different, because I had a doctor who had the people, they had to say if people were sick and could stay home. And if you are a doctor who has an ideology of is more like freedom, like Sartre, existentialism, and I mean, everybody is the boss of themselves. And if you have that kind of doctor, he tells, to that lady, next week you can go back to work because, But another doctor with the same problem in the same group, they were very more socialistic, very more like, we have to help people. It's the problem of the society. So they said, this girl is so sick, you can have to stay home for 2 months. So it depends totally if you know what is your entrance into the problem, you have to know. And it's in your own thinking, you have to know where you are, because if you say, like now in the moment in Holland, now you have a lot of stoicism, Stoics, because the religion is going. Stoa is in the last few years very in, and it has beautiful remarks for people to help them also. But you have to know what is good for them. So it's very careful. There is not a ready-made script for it. It really is, trying it out and be, and otherwise take it, because that's good also for like Fauna or Lou. We did a lot on, we took it on, how do you call it? We videoed it. No, not video, but we put it on a message, and we can talk to Lou or to Fauna about it. Like, this is the problem here. What do you think? So you need people to help you out with, if you start, I think.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Marta, just to add one thing, we do 3 different kinds of certifications, and what Ida has been talking about a lot in her work is a technique called dilemma training, a 7-step method that she referred to that was pioneered by Henk van Looy at Nijenrode University, which is a kind of Harvard Business School of the Netherlands. And it was very successful in Europe. We learned it from Ida and Dries. They came and taught us this. And then I've used it with civil servants and all kinds of groups. And we teach it also as a certification. So you might want to attend a future program. And that's a way to help people. It's not painting by numbers, but it's a methodology whereby people can really grapple with their moral questions. We're not giving them answers; they have to come up with answers.
Yeah.
But this is something that might be useful for you going forward. So one step at a time. Okay, we've learned so much, as you can see, and not to mention the Socratic dialogue, which we also learned from our Dutch colleagues. So they've been instrumental in helping us to become practitioners across a pretty broad spectrum. So thank you for asking. It's really great. Ibrahim, also Michel de Gastine, before Professor Ozdemir gets in, Michel, you have basically put some stuff in the chat room, and we really try to avoid politics in this session. We're talking philosophy and society in general. Michel, I think that we could, maybe Ida would like to tackle your question about Gorbachev and Reza. Would you like to unmute and ask her about perestroika and glasnost? And we'd love to hear from you if you want to do that. Michel's in Paris. at the moment?
We thank you, Professor Marinov. Thank you so much. Ida, so nice to meet you.
Where are you? I'm looking for you. There you are, Michelle. Well, hang on. You don't have a video, though. You're not on camera.
Yeah, no.
Well, there you are.
There you are. Yeah. Hi.
Bonsoir.
Hi, Ida.
Hi.
Okay, so Dr. Marinov is asking me to put aside for the moment the things related to the Middle East. I just attended just today a Soka University event where there were people from both sides of the divide talking about how to find positive solutions for the future, and morality and philosophy. Well, it was more touching on psychology than philosophy. And my question for tonight, which I understand we won't touch on now, was I think philosophers have to get into that. So what the other part was about perestroika, glasnost, and this is coming from a webinar of a couple of years ago out of Ireland. It was, I don't know, New University or something like that. And there was a man who had frequented the cafe in Moscow where a number of people, including Raisa Gorbachev and Aitmatov, the great writer, and people that directly inspired the concepts of perestroika and glasnost. I thought at the very beginning of today, you might have mentioned Russia. So that's what brought that to my mind. Do you have anything that you want to add?
It depends on what? On what is your question? What is your concern?
Okay. Ever since I heard that man in Ireland say that he knew the people at that cafe in Moscow, it was a circle of philosophers, writers, artists, and together they had this fomenting of ideas, almost like the Impressionist movement in Paris 150 years ago. All these different thinkers, artists, creative people coming together. And I keep thinking that's so critical. And what we're doing now, thanks to Professor Marinov, is we're kind of doing the same thing. And I'm wondering, the world needs more of these kind of groups and inspiring actual, well, you don't like me to use the word political, Dr. Marinov, so actual movements in the society. And it's hard not to talk about what's going on now, like in Europe and in the West, in the States, in Europe. I'm in Paris now. People are afraid to speak up and say what they think because they're labeled.
Yeah.
And so you see what I mean? So there's not a deep discussion about what definitions are. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, but I mean, if Lou told you of, we noticed that we are busy for 30, 35, 40 years and see where our ideas brought us. I mean, if you look at the world, we can't be very proud of our groups because what did we do? So I think it's too demanding to ask too much for. It's not like what you see now in the groups in Holland, for instance. It's political also, but the thing is, we have big groups who are worried about nature and climate change and everything. And those groups, they are really getting together. And a lot of philosophers are also in the front of that. And we have every week almost, we have a demonstration in the streets, about against Palestine, against Israel, against this, but also for climate change. They really, and it's a big group in Europe, also in Paris, and all they come from everywhere. And they go on the streets because they don't want that the big companies get all this subsidized of the climate problems. So I can understand that a lot of people do a lot. And in my groups, the only thing, we are now so disgusted by our political sidetrack we go, that we feel that all the years of because we are in intellectual in Europe or intellectual in Holland, you are almost always to the left side in the middle. You are never to the right side. I mean, I don't know why, but that's tradition, I think. That's how we brought up. And now it suddenly goes another way, and another way means that the mighty dollar is so important, so it goes over the thinking process. So I'm not very positive about what we are going to solve in this life. And of course, I hope the young people that they get more powerful. And you see that also in America. I think the youth has to do it now, because we have another 10 years and that's it.
Well, maybe 15, Ida. I mean, be an optimist. But the thing is, Michel, just allow me to qualify something. This is a philosophical agora. And of course, we're all political animals, and we could easily bring political topics to the table, but we'll end up arguing about politics if we do that. I think the role of philosophy, and I'm sure I've learned this from Ida and our Dutch colleagues, the vital role we can always play, regardless of the political situation, is to facilitate dialogue. Because without dialogue, there is no resolution of anything. There is only hardening of people's positions. Now, you, I know very well, are coming from the Soka Gakkai tradition. And I remember very well and recommend to my students the dialogue between President Ikeda and Mikhail Gorbachev called Moral Lessons of the 20th Century, where you had, these two great figures, one from the communist tradition and one from the Buddhist tradition, finding a lot of common ground on human values. So, Ida, don't you agree that this is basically what we can do? We're not going to solve the world's problems, so we can facilitate dialogues, and dialogues are better than violence.
Absolutely. And even in politics, you need dialogues more than ever.
Especially.
Yes.
But people have to be willing to come to the table. You can't put a gun to someone's head and say, sit at the table, because it defeats the purpose, right?
You're right, right. Yeah.
Can I just
I agree.
One last really quickly? Thank you so much. Yes, dialogue. It's absolutely this. And when they discussed tonight about how everybody needs to understand their own history better and the history of the other side better, because there are certain traumatisms that if they don't understand, they won't understand the reaction, the triggers, whatever. So it does come down to dialogue again. It's deep dialogue.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I agree totally. Yeah.
And I've done this, at the World Economic Forum, where there have been dialogues among religious leaders, and the leaders very often want to have peaceful relations.
Yes.
Everyone does better economically, politically, socially, every which way. But the world is always going to be full of bad actors who will try to take the process away from peace and toward violence. And we can't dialogue with people who won't dialogue with us. That's a fundamental problem. Okay. But I'm more optimistic, perhaps, than Ida. Maybe that's because I'm less experienced, but I hope not. Thank you, Michel. It's always great to see you.
Same here.
Michel's an expat American in Paris, Michel with a very French name, Michel de Gastine. I remember you telling me that when you lived in the South, people called you Michel de Gasoline because they couldn't pronounce the French name.
It's okay.
You're still making
What's in a name?
Thank you so much, both of you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you, Michel. Come back again, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Okay, we have Professor Ozdemir and Alexander also, whose hands are up. Okay, I'm going to you, Ibrahim. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Ida. It is nice to meet you. I am really happy to listen to you. I learn a lot from you. And you mentioned twice or three times about climate change. I am joining you from Boston, but I am originally from Istanbul, Turkey. And here I am teaching a course on environmental ethics. And and my course is, although it is an elective course, it is many students apply to my course. And when I talk with them, why did you choose my course? I just want to have an ecological grief, ecological anxiety about what is happening to the climate, to the world, to the natural environment. But besides this, also in Turkey, as you remember, last year we have a massive earthquake.
I
And
know.
after that, I began to officially, philosophical counseling. And before that, I was just making that as a part, as a part of my academic life. But now, because it hit my hometown, I lost my relatives. I try to help them, and their problem is loneliness and anxiety, purposelessness, neglectedness, and nobody understands them and how to cope the fear of the death and also a next earthquake. So
Yeah.
my question is that how, with your experience, we can, as a philosophical counselor, help to victims of ecological crisis or natural crisis. Thank you.
Yeah, but we in Turkey, the big earthquake was very, very on our on television every day, and we put also as Holland. I saw it last week, a big amount of money in there, but it does not come at the right place. That's the problem in Turkey at the moment, because people are still, after I don't know how long, still in the same kind of situation. So
yes,
that is
right.
the big problem, and they try to do it, but you know how it goes with this kind of big events, of these disasters, before the money goes to the right place and before it is building up. I mean, years go over it. It really is traumatic, of course, to all the people. And in Holland, too, it's because I was in the 2 months in America, and I was in Florida, and I know America very good. But they have, it's so funny because there is a very big roof on their apartment building, and they don't put sun panels on there. And if you ask them, why don't put sun panels here? I mean, ecological, climate, whatever. And they say, and that's that area in Florida where they live. They said, we are not cheap, they say. So then you can't forget it. Then you can't forget to talk any further with them. So America is going a lot better now with all this ecological business. But, if you see what's coming to us, it's really kind of scary, totally. So I don't know how you can, if you teach to the students, there is no way. The only thing is they can go on the streets and try to fight for it, that we get better ecological that they get the politics behind them, because I don't know how you can't tell the students that there is nothing wrong there. There is a lot wrong. So how do you want it? And the ethical is, what is the moral issue, and how do they go about it? It's the difference even here, but the difference in America between the very, very rich, where my sister lives, and the very, very poor. That's it's tremendous. The difference, tremendous. So. Therefore, I'm also kind of negative what we can do, because if the very rich people give half of their money away, we probably don't even have famished. The people are not hungry anymore. If you know how many money is there, in the world. So we can't help that, I think. So I can't help you I did it so with my students, and they get very anxious. I have a lot of young people now who have problems with where the world goes to, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. Great to see you. And we're going to move on, because Alexander Frika has been waiting very patiently, and Julia will get to you as well. So please unmute, Alexander, and tell us: Are you in Romania at the moment?
No, I am from Serbia. I'm from the great.
Pardon me for being grossly wrong, but Eastern Europe. I got that right?
Yes.
You're in Serbia. Are you in Belgrade? Where are you?
Yes. I'm from Belgrade. I am from Belgrade.
And are you? I worked in Serbia in Bor. Do you know Bor?
Oh, yes, I know.
Yeah, I worked there. That's funny.
And you're a colleague of Alexander's, are you not?
Yes,
I am. Alexander. He's a great friend of ours. So please, you have the floor. Thank you for joining
Thank you. So at the beginning, you mentioned that all black room, and you mentioned that it wasn't Nietzsche's room, but it was Sartre's room. So I'm curious, Have Nietzsche's room looked if there was any?
It was totally red. And it was of morning red, the book, the Morgan wrote,
Yeah.
And we did it red, and we had all kind of sayings of him. And I really love Nietzsche. And in my house, I also have a painting in the room, what was about the camel, the camel and the lion, and I had them all on the wall. So Nietzsche has good visual art subjects that you can work with.
Yes. Especially Zarathustra, yeah.
Yeah, especially Zarathustra, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Alexander. It's good to see you. Come back again. Please join us.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for being here. Okay, Ida, we have Julia, who's also, I think, from the West Coast. Hang on a second. Julia, and then Andrea. Okay, Julia, are you there?
I'm here.
Let me find you so I can spotlight
I see you.
There you are.
Okay.
Go, hi.
Hi. Ibrahim, when he was explaining the condition of the people, I just wondered, do you, Ibrahim, have some idea of what the people could do in their loneliness, for example? I don't know if he's still with us.
Could you repeat the question, please?
My question is, when Ibrahim described all the people and their condition, part of it was they're feeling lonely. And I wondered if he had any idea, since he's from that area, what the people could do.
You mean in Turkey, right? You're talking about the
Right.
people caught in the earthquake?
Yeah, and just in terms of the climate, right? It was a kind of a general malaise that they have.
Yeah.
And so he was asking Ida what could be done, but I'm thinking he may have some ideas that like reaching out to other countries, making pen pals, for example, with the people. If the country itself is not going to gather together, I mean, I presume they've already tried that, but so it struck me that they may want to reach.
but I don't know. I try to understand your question, but I think the loneliness is one of the biggest problems at the moment in the Western and in America and everywhere. So I don't think
My question is simply: does Ibrahim have an idea of what the people could do?
Well, we should ask Ibrahim. I mean, it seems like you're asking him. So let's ask him to answer then. Ibrahim, go ahead.
This is Julia, a very good question. When I am trying to help these especially devastated earthquake victims online, and even some of my philosopher colleagues, colleague philosophers, they criticize me. They say it is not our job. Our job is just teaching our students. It's in academia, on campus, but I don't think so. But when I talk about the existential problems of these people, I saw they were so happy. First of all, as a philosopher, when I try to listen to them, I just can see how they are relaxed. They just feel they are important. There are somebody who can talk about them with the philosophical experience, background, not only religious or spiritual perspectives. And this is very, very important. And in my class on environmental ethics, my major pioneers, they are, eco-feminist ladies, Joanna Macy, from Rachel Carson to Karen Warren, and there's a lot of others, Carolyn Mergent. They just felt how nature is destroyed and exploited by power mentality. So I'm just sharing my students. You can do something for you. For example, when these pioneers they wrote their first work, nobody interested. But now as I am Turkey, I just reading them. I studied environmental philosophy and ethics, and I just know I am here as a visiting scholar teaching environmental ethics. And last semester, I just taught a course on ecofeminism. And so it is just, first when you try to listen to them and to share your experience, beyond academia, beyond the borders of academia, you can see the difference. Yeah. And in fact, what Lou and also Ida is doing, I'm just trying to do the same thing in my classes and also with my experience in Turkey about victims of earthquake. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm a teacher too.
Thank you very much, Julia. And thanks again, Ibrahim. I think it's a little bit, without being too trite, it's a little bit like what Gandhi said, that we all have to be the change that we wish to see in the world. We can't change the world, but we can change ourselves in our immediate environments, and maybe that has some cumulative effect. That would be the optimist's hope. Ida, there's more people who want to talk to you. Andrea's been very patient, and then Natasha. Please, Andrea, go ahead and unmute, and let's find you and spotlight you. There you are.
Okay. Hello, Ida. It's so nice to meet you.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, and thank you for sharing your story with us. And I'm so inspired by the Philosopher Hotel. I think it's just an amazing story. It's innovative. It's a successful business venture. And it's probably a way of bringing philosophy to people that would never encounter it otherwise.
Yeah,
and
right.
so, yes. And so I would really just love to hear a little bit more about the hotel. And specifically, whether you think having a philosophically themed hotel helped your business, gave it a niche market, made it more successful commercially. So one question is on the commercial side. And then the other question is, were there people that booked a philosophical hotel on a whim, that didn't have any particular background in philosophy, that engaged in a philosophical cafe and were transformed in some way? And I'm guessing the answer to that question is yes. But if it is, I wonder if you could share one of those anecdotes.
Yeah, there are too many anecdotes for that, because the thing is that a lot of people came, of course, to the hotel because they didn't know it was called the Philosoof, but they didn't know there was any philosophical thing. The only thing in the rooms, they thought they were peculiar, so they thought it was strange. So when a group came and then they had different rooms, they always went to each other's rooms and they said, my room is so different. What happened here? So they were totally into it. And after a few years, we had it for 20 years. We don't have it now anymore. But for 20 years, you don't believe it, how many people came for the philosophical team. And we had our own public. And the thing went, it came because we had the philosophical evenings there with the lectures in the coffee in the Philo Cafe. And we got a journalist from the north of Holland. He came in on one of the first Saturdays, I think, when we had a talk, and he thought it was, and we didn't have any philosophical rooms yet because we were only open for half a year maybe. So he came in and he was with a lecturer and he stayed in the hotel and he made a big article in a newspaper, because we are from the north, so two sisters, philosophers in Amsterdam. So you don't believe it, but after that, we never did any public PR anymore because it came from one group to another and everywhere. I don't know where they came from, but, I still now have you can look at the rooms if you want to know a little bit about it. We have, because the hotel is now gone, and I have a foundation now, and it's called the Filosoof. It's in the Dutch Stichting de Filosoof.
Could you put the website, could you type the website into the chat room, please, Ida, so we can look if you have some pictures online?
I don't know where
Oh, you don't know the URL. If you email it to me, I'll share it.
I email it, yes. I give you some addresses of the torpedo, etc. But the funny thing is, there is the foundation where because the money I earned, because it was a really very good kind of entrepreneurship with the hotel, because we were almost always full and it was good. And, so I have now a foundation where I help philosophers and everybody for little amounts. It's not a big thing. So therefore I have a stichting now, and I have also all the pictures of the rooms in there. So it's funny to look at them to see what we did with all those rooms. So the PR was by itself, and the people were so nice. We had even clients from Japan who sent me all kind of philosophy book in Japanese. They came for a few days and they thought they saw all the books there, and we did the Japanese books, and they all sent us all books all over the world from philosophy. So it really was a kind of, and it was I call it an interest. It was an interest group. It was not like, how do you call it now, those hotels? It was not a design hotel or something at all, because everything I had in the rooms was from the flea market and was very cheap and done. So it was absolutely not built from money. It was only by, going to the secondhand markets and find a kind of good lamp which goes with that color, etc.
It was bohemian. It was a great experience, really. And are you thinking of doing this in Sedona, Andrea? Is there something behind this question? Or
Well, I work with a few boutique hotels in Sedona, and that's where we get most of our business referred. But there is a hotel that we partner, one particular hotel we partner with very closely, and we have salons there occasionally. And the hotel was designed in the arts and crafts style. So it was really conceived as a place for people to gather and engage in dialogue, and which was, common at that time in history. So I was just very curious.
Of course,
but actually having a philosophical hotel, I think, is a brilliant idea.
Yeah. You can always get in touch with me if you have questions or whatever. No problem.
I want to thank you for that. And I specifically want to thank Vana for inviting me here today, because I am thrilled to be here. So thank you, Vana, for extending the invitation. And I just have one more question, Ida, which is, did you notice when people were there on vacation, because you've taught philosophy, you've worked in philosophical counseling with a number of groups, but you've had people visit the hotel as well.
Yeah.
And do you notice that people think differently or perhaps more open-minded or creative when they're on vacation, when they're away from home?
It's a kind of, it's a difficult question for me, because I started the hotel because next to my studies, I told you I worked in a hotel and I was with KLM in hotels, but I did not want a hotel for the bourgeoisie couples. So I started the hotel for intellect, for singles, for art. So, I mean, I had, so what you see in if a couple goes on a holiday, they stay a couple. And if they stay in the bar, you can't talk freely with them because they are always together. So the single people and the people for work who come for work, they are a lot more interesting to open mind and do with philosophy. So it depends on what kind of hotel you have, I think. And I went after, and my sister didn't like it, but my sister wanted hotel for everybody. And I had the feeling, I like also special hotel where you marketing a little bit for, intellectuals or for singles or for arty people. And then you get also that public and they like each other. So you have in breakfast totally different stories on the breakfast table than you have only with 10 couples. So that was also my idea, and it's maybe not nice for all the couples in the world, but there are a lot of single people too, and business people.
There are. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you very much, Andre. Great to see you. Come back again, please.
Thank you.
Natasha, you've been very patient. We're going to give you the last question. So please unmute and go ahead. I'm looking for you to spotlight you. There you are. Please go ahead. Hi.
Hello. Hi, Ida. Hi, Luis. Hi, everybody. I am
you tell us where you're coming from, please.
Yeah, I am from America. I live in America, but originally I am from Ukraine, and you know what's happening in Ukraine now. And my question has to do with some people that come to me for my consultations, and their question is about identities. They they have this question. They have this question. They ask me just because they have already been to a psychologist and it didn't help.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe there are some. What's that? I'm sorry, something. Oh, okay. Maybe there are some ideas from some philosophers, philosophical ideas that I could use to work with these people.
So you want a crash course in philosophical counseling from Ida, and we have 4 minutes. Ida, that's a good challenge.
It's just maybe one idea, whatever comes to your head.
Yeah. No, the thing is that I understand you, that you say it's the problem by identity. But the thing is, what I do, I have to know exactly then, for many questions, what you think about identity, what the people have problems with identity. Is it a country? Is it physical? Is it where what kind of identity problem is there?
Okay, it's the same problem with these 3 people that I have. They are in a different country,
yeah,
and they already decided they will stay there. They will be there. They will have new lives there. At the same time, they feel like they are betraying something, and they do not want to assimilate. They are not sure. They're kind of lost.
Yes, yeah, I can understand. Yeah, we have them in Holland. We have them 50% in Amsterdam is not from Holland, so we have this problem all the time. The only thing is it's totally different, because Ukraine is a totally different problem at the moment, because we have the same problems with the Turkish people and the Moroccan people. They want to stay here, but they have also a kind of guilt feeling for their home countries. And what do you do about it? So they try to help them in the home countries, but they don't feel totally an American. So I think, how can people learn to get a double kind of identity? You are okay if you are, the feeling. I'm from the north. I'm a Frisian with a different language, and I'm Dutch, because Frisian is just a province of Holland, but it's a totally different part. So if I'm in Friesland, I'm a Frisian, but if I'm in Amsterdam, I'm of course a Dutch person, and nobody knows I'm from Friesland. So to work with your different identities, that's the task, what people have to learn all over the place. Because if you are a mother and you are a worker and you are sick, it's all different identities. So, we have to get rid of that, I think, that idea that we have one identity. So there are many.
Yes.
Okay.
Ida, I think that's a great answer in a short frame. We have layers. It's not one, it's many. And Natasha, if you go to APPA's bookstore, our website, and we have a bookstore, you'll find many books that are written for non-philosophers, which illustrate many kinds of philosophers who can be useful in counseling. So you might want to start reading our literature, and you'll discover all kinds of philosophers whom you can use, or at least whom you can learn from and then deploy in your own practice. Okay? So I think reading is a good way to start. But Ida's point about identity is well taken. We're all human, the big thing that we need to learn, I think, is never mind what city, what town, what country, what religion, what all of that, what political. We're human beings, and I think that we need to have a new kind of humanism, so people never lose sight of that common denominator, regardless of our differences. So I hope that's helpful to you. Ida, that was a great answer in a very short time. And we really need to wrap this up. It's basically our allotted moment. 5:30 has arrived all too quickly. Ida, it's been fantastic to see you again, and we're very grateful for your presence today. It's getting late in Amsterdam too, but every time we're together, we usually raise a glass of wine. Do you have something to have a toast with, or are you going to do this afterwards?
I do it afterwards. It's okay.
Okay, well, we're going to toast you. I want to have a view,
of course,
group picture. I'm going to show the whole gallery. If everybody could please applaud Ida. Give Ida a great round of applause for her presence and her answers to these wonderful questions. Ida, it's been great
Thank
to be
you.
with you today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much for your answer. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay,
I already
very
got
good.
the idea.
Yes, okay. Good luck for everybody.
Thanks a lot, Ida. It's been
Yes.
wonderful to see you again. I hope next time it'll be in Amsterdam.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hope so. I will see you
Miss
there.
you. We all miss
Okay.
you. Lydia's here too. She goes back with us a long way. We'll all get together again. Next month, just to plug next month's guest, it's going to be Bill Irwin, Distinguished Professor of Service at King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And the most important thing about him is he's the series editor of Blackwell's Philosophy and Pop Culture. He's done incredible work to bring a whole array of philosophers into public consciousness. So he's in the realm of public philosophy. Many of us, of course, are public philosophers in private practice, and he's a private philosopher in public practice with his popular books and other things. So we'll welcome him. I hope to see you all back again. Thank you so much for making this Agora a great success. Ida, be well. We love you, and we want to see you again in person soon. Take good care of yourself.
Bye.